Hello and welcome to the Global Travel Channel podcast show. I'm your host Mark Philpott, and on today's show I have another exciting guest for you. On the show I talk to people all over the world about their incredible travel experiences. If you're a regular listener to the show, welcome back. It's great to have you here. If you're a newbie, welcome. It's great to have you here. And don't forget to check out on all the other episodes on the Global Travel Channel podcast, which can be found on our website at www.globaltravelchannel.com. It's easy to remember. You can download them off that site as well. And from places like Apple iTunes under podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and the list goes on. Don't forget to check out our Patreon page. There's lots of good information on there as well. Now, on the show today, I'm going to be talking to a bonny wee Scottish lady, and she's going to be telling us about how it is to be a travel blogger, some of the things to watch out for, and sharing tips from her journey. But we're also going to listen to her tell us about some of her favourite destinations around the world. Now, there might be a couple here that you haven't considered before to put on your bucket list, so listen carefully, get the tips that she's going to share with us, and then go and book a ticket. So why don't we go over now and meet our guest for today. So it's a very warm welcome to the Global Travel Channel podcast show to Gemma Armit. Gemma, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Whereabouts in the world are you talking to me from today?
So I am in the Kingdom of Fife, which is very close to the capital of Scotland, Edinburgh.
The Kingdom of Fife. When you started off saying that, I thought you were going to give us some kind of exotic location around the world, and it is indeed actually in Scotland, isn't it?
Well, it kind of winds up other Scots that Fifers always say they're from the kingdom, because they're like, it's not a kingdom, but our official title of the region is the Kingdom of Fife.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I live in a small town called Rosyth, which is very close to the bridges that take you over to Edinburgh.
Yeah, I know it actually quite personally. I've cycled over the bridge.
So do you know we've got 3 bridges now?
Actually, I just got to say, well, I've got the chance. When I cycled over the bridge, it was pouring down with rain and freezing cold.
No surprise.
Now, in preparation for the show today, I did watch 3 episodes of Billy Connolly last night.
Oh, fabulous.
Off all wrapped up and getting that accent acclimatized in my ear, so I'm ready to go. And you'll be pleased to know that I have many Scottish friends around the world, so I should be able to work out everything you are saying today.
Okay, subtitles are not required.
Now tell us, are you a podcast fan? Do you listen to many different podcasts?
So podcasts have kind of been ruined for me because I started listening to the UK crime, true crime podcast, They Walk Among Us. Are you familiar?
Mm-hmm. No, I'm not.
So the pace of it's very slow, and it's just the husband of the team talking through a true crime story. So it's very unique in its style. So now other podcasts, it's quite difficult to tune into them because I'm used to that really slow sort of storytelling vibe. But I really like crime TV and sort of crime podcasts, so that's my vibe.
Yeah, everybody says that. Like everyone I have on the show, they say, I love crime podcasts. Have we got a world of sadistic people that want to be involved in murders all the time, have we, or what?
It's just like, what did everyone do before the podcast? We weren't reading that many crime books. I have always been a fan of crime books as well, but the crime podcast scene has just made true crime explode, like.
That's a really good point. Like, there's been an absolute explosion in crime podcasts, and you're right. You bring up a really good point. I wonder who can answer that one for us. How many crime books are sold every year, I wonder? Good one. So, okay, so would you like me to speak slower to make this more
cool
for you? Do you want me to...
Creepy stories in as well about the guys next door or something.
I've had a very upbeat day, so I'm feeling like I'm running with this, but you want me to slow down and be very methodical in my tone, yeah? That could work out well. When did you first come across podcasts? Has it been something that's been relatively recent, or are you somebody that picked them up right from the beginning, way back?
No, I'm always late to the game. I'm literally the floppy disk girl. It's quite surprising that I run a blog.
I like my guests using my show as therapy as well and being very transparent on things. So go ahead. You can bear out your soul on this show. There's no problem.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty slow to it. What is the name's totally escaping me now? What was like the first true crime podcasts that really, Serial, that's it. So Serial was like my entry drug to the true crime podcast scene, I would say.
Yeah, okay.
I think lots of people would say that as well.
I've just made a strategic decision. You're going to be my last guest on the show, and I'm going to start a crime podcast tomorrow.
I apologise.
That's one way of getting more listeners, is start a crime podcast. There we go. One of the things that I do on my show is I offer my guests the opportunity to dedicate this episode to someone special in their life. So who would you like to dedicate your show to today?
Oh, I'm going to dedicate it to my dad. My dad's had 2 cancers in the last year, and he's still going for it and fighting it. So, Bobby, you absolute legend.
Good man. What's your dad's name?
His name's Bobby.
Bobby?
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Bobby, this is for you from your daughter. What a lovely dedication that is. This is something you two can, I was going to say you can hang it on the wall and look at it for the rest of your lives together, but you're not going to be able to hang it on the wall. But you can listen to it together. That would be quite nice.
Yeah, I'll need to show him how to listen to it because I get my tech skills from Bobby.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that's a lovely dedication. Thank you for that. You and I are going to talk about a whole lot of things to do with travel today, but I thought we'd start off at the University of Glasgow because you were there as a student, and I kind of have a vision in my head, and it's probably something to do with Billy Connolly actually, because I kind of think that all young Scottish people just have a great time when they're at school or they're at university, and it's all party time. So what happened at the University of Glasgow for you? Why did you go there in the first place?
To get out of the kingdom. And I did not call it the kingdom back then either. It was at the age of 17 I went to university, and I just wanted far enough away that I could move to halls and just get out. And my mum fully encouraged this. My mum was always like, the conversation was always just, you're going to university and that's it. And Glasgow, actually my uncle had a girlfriend that lived in Glasgow, and I used to go through and go shopping with her and for lunch. So that kind of like sparked a fire for that city. And when it came to the application time, I kind of had Glasgow sort of was the forefront of where I wanted to go. Abroad wasn't really an option because university fees are free in Scotland, so that was obviously an attraction of staying in Scotland. But yeah, it was the best move ever. Glasgow will always be a second home to me.
Yeah,
now.
It's a brilliant city. And what were you there studying? What was the dream at that stage of life?
Well, I actually applied as film and TV studies and sociology. And then when you arrive and you have your meeting with your advisor, they go, so what's your third subject? And you're like, I didn't know I had to choose a third subject. So we went over some things, and I really liked a subject at school called Modern Studies, which is politics and current affairs. And he suggested that I took social policy as my third subject, and lo and behold, I dropped film and TV, dropped sociology, and I graduated in social policy.
Social policy, there you go. So you went from being a potential BBC Scotland announcer to looking after crime and justice around the River Clyde, did you? Or what? How did that work out?
So what's quite interesting is I found my primary 7 yearbook, so that's like age 10, 11 yearbook, and it said that I wanted to be a journalist when I was older. And I also wanted to have 2 kids called Chloe and Dylan. I was so specific. And Dylan was a really popular name. The majority of the girls all wanted a boy called Dylan in primary 7 at my school. Yeah. But then it came to the 5th year when you apply for your UCAS forms to university, and I wrote in my personal statement that I wanted to work in public relations. So at that stage, I actually did want to work in media, but Glasgow, being one of the more traditional universities, didn't have a media option. I'm quite surprised I got in with this personal statement on reflection. But that was enough for film and TV to get in with that hook. And then the strength of modern studies obviously got me into the sort of social studies faculty. But then after university, I thought I wanted to go into social policy. I worked in care. That wasn't for me. So then I went teaching, and I became a modern studies teacher. It's like full circle. And now I don't do that. And now I work in online media. Strange how your path turns out.
It is, isn't it? And I was going to say you've gone full circle, but you haven't really, because you've gone at completely 90-degree angles, really, haven't you?
I still teach, though. I teach bloggers now, so I don't teach high school kids. So I've still got...
there you go. Yeah, so teaching's in the blood, right?
Definitely. My mum's a teacher too, so I would say so.
That was going to be my next question. Is there a role model in the family? And obviously there are. Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I've got one brother who's younger than me. Is he 4 years younger than me, I think? And his girlfriend Amy, big parts of the family, and they've got 2 chihuahuas. And then my mum and my dad. And my mum's like my biggest role model ever. She went to university the year before me, so that's quite a challenge to do as an adult. So she went to study primary. She did her hires at the same time as me, and she got an A in English, and I got a B. Raging. Oh.
So how was that following in the footsteps? Because I did that with my sister as well, and I used to hate it because I got reference to her all the time. So did that happen for you?
Nah, my mum's my biggest cheerleader. She supports everything that I do, and it's just she's raised me to be the trailblazer that I am. Your
first big hurrah was going from the Kingdom of Fife to Glasgow to study. So when was the first overseas trip?
Oh, with parents or without parents?
Oh, either. Doesn't matter. What's the first recollection of travelling overseas?
So first sort of like holiday was to Menorca, and I was in primary 6. So I would have been about 9 years old. And I was telling Craig this when we were on holiday in Tenerife last month. I remember going and getting toasties. Getting a cheese and ham toastie in the wee cafe next to the resort.
It's amazing what you remember from those trips at that age.
Oh, my brother ruined my mum's 30th birthday. It was her 30th birthday, and he fell and got a cactus spike in his knee. Had to spend the day in hospital. That's another memory from that holiday as well.
I've got to tell you an amazing statistic out of all the guests that I've had on my show, which is over 100 plus now. 90% of them say that their recollection of their first overseas travel experience is when they were 8 or 9 years old.
Oh, that's crazy.
Isn't it? Isn't that amazing? Like, yeah, it's incredible. Also, the star. So, what star sign are you?
Capricorn.
There you go. That's another one. So, Capricorn, Sagittarians, and Geminis are the most popular travellers on the shows. So, there you go. You've got the star sign going for you as well as everything else.
In the stars.
Brilliant. So, when was the first overseas trip solo? When did you take off without?
Yeah,
parents around?
So when I was, apart from like a Tenerife holiday with a high school boyfriend, which I was like 15, 16 years old, and went to a free bar and then tried to do a catamaran tour the next day, and ended up just hogging the bathroom, puking up canary potatoes the whole time. So do not recommend. But my first big trip away that really sort of got the taste for travel was interrailing at second year of university around Eastern Europe with 2 friends, Laura and Vary.
So what made you choose Eastern Europe as a destination?
Probably budget-wise, I would say. Like, we were always interrailing because that was the thing to do, like, at that time. Budget airlines hadn't really kicked off, and it would have been the price that attracted us for Eastern Europe. So
how was that trip? Did that kind of ignite a travel bug for you that said, well, hang on a minute, I want to do more of this?
Definitely, but I was such a picky eater, and I always laugh, like, I'm still really good friends with Vary and Laura, like, Laura, Vary, I apologise for being so picky. Like, I probably made the trip more difficult than what it should have been. But everyone's got their flaws, I suppose, but I'm much better now. But yeah, it definitely, like, just the variety of things we did. So we started in Prague. Yeah. And did the whole first day excitement where you walk for 12 hours and then you're like, we can't do that every day. That's not possible. And then also try and party, drink absinthe. And yeah, so, but Prague was nice at that time. Like, it was quieter with the stag and hen do's. Obviously, budget airlines hadn't quite kicked off at that point. And then we took the train from there to Bratislava. Yep. And we stayed in this really random hostel, which was like a Picasso hostel that was just half built. And they gave us this huge private room with more than 3 beds in it. It was all quite surreal. And the funny thing about Bratislava was there was a Tesco. So we went to Tesco and got like tins of tuna and made like tuna baguettes for our meal. It's still there. Do you know that? No way. And my mum was obviously like, did you use your points card? Like, funniest joke ever.
I was in it a few years ago, and I said to myself, "What's Tesco doing here in the middle of Bratislava?" I couldn't
that's
believe
back
it.
in the early 2000s. It was there as well, so it's nothing new. Strange, eh?
It's very peculiar what you see in some places, though, isn't it?
Well, supermarkets abroad are interesting, especially when they carry a brand name. So if you've ever been to a Spar in the UK,
Mm.
and you go to a Spar in Vienna,
Yeah.
like, wow, Spars in the UK are crap. Whereas the ones in Vienna are delis, and Italy as well. There was one in Italy as well in the summer there. Like, our spas literally have dusty pot noodles, if you're lucky.
So Eastern Europe, was it fascinating? Did you kind of get into the whole history and architecture and everything else?
Definitely. So after Tesco, we hit Budapest. It was at the time where you carried that huge book with all the train times in it.
Yeah.
One of them between us. I think it was red. Huge book.
But these are the days where you could actually stand on the Charles Bridge in Prague and take a photo without a million other people being in it, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
And we got off the train in Budapest, went to a phone box and used the Lonely Planet book to phone the hostels, the 3 hostels they recommended.
Yeah.
We went to one, and I think we stayed there one night, and then we went over the border to Pest, which felt like, millions of miles away. I know it's not now, but back then, like, getting on public transport to get there. And it was a really quite unique hostel that had beds outside if you wanted to sleep outside in the kind of tree hut.
Yeah.
We didn't do that. And then we met a boy, and he was like, "Are you going to Auschwitz?"
Mm.
And even at that time, like, that name didn't ring much to me.
Yeah.
So obviously the power of when we got to Krakow and then we did the day tour to Auschwitz was just like, whoa, this is what one is about.
Mm.
Where something you've learned potentially in history or you haven't learned at all is right underneath your feet.
Yeah.
Speaking to people that have had family members that are personally affected by it, and you're like, this is what travel is all about.
Yeah. Did it really knock you between the ears in terms of the impact? Like, was it so confronting?
It's when you get to the floor to ceiling windows and it's hair and glasses and bags, that still like rings so much to me. Like, and that's a very long time ago that I was there.
Yeah.
And I've recently just read the the Tattooist of Auschwitz. There's a new one out as well that I've not read. It's the Tattooist of Auschwitz.
Mm-hmm.
And you're reading this literature of something that you've seen so long ago. It still like has such a hold on you.
How was the reality of being in Eastern Europe different to what the kind of expectation you had before you left to go and visit? Was there, a big gap in what you expected to see versus what you actually did see?
I don't think I put expectations on things, to be honest with you. I just kind of go with them. Even back then, I didn't really picture what anything was going to be like. I also didn't think food was going to be a problem. Bit of a problem. Yes, I don't know. I don't think I really put much of a pedestal on anything, really.
Where did the picky eating thing come from? Was that something that you've always had?
Oh, I don't come from a household that loves food, really, being honest. We just cook to live. There isn't.
We cook to live. I'll use that quote.
To survive. Craig is the cook in my like family now. My husband Craig's the cook.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. So when you went to these places, you were kind of like, whoa, hang on a minute, what's going on here? Because, you went to places where there was a lot of stodgy food and stuff, yeah?
I suppose Scottish food's stodgy as well. Like, we went to one of the traditional, in Poland, we went to one of the traditional canteen-style food places where you pick up a tray, you're just given what you get, basically, and you sit down. And I made a boke face very rudely. I regret that. But that invented the Gemma boke. So now my friends refer to things as the Gemma boke. That nice.
Without giving too much away, what was it like travelling for the first time with some friends? Was that dynamic good? How do you look back on that now today?
Definitely our personalities all shown through. And I think we all travel the exact same way pretty much as we travelled back then. But I always remember, so Vari took charge and we were somewhere with an underground. I can't remember where, but Vari got in first and the doors shut and me and Laura were just stood on the platform like, crap. And Vari was pointing get off at the, get on and get off at the next station. So that's what we did, and we all met again. but like that's still a really funny memory of traveling. Like 2 weekends ago, I was just with Vary and Laura and two other friends up in the west coast of Scotland, and I'd say that we are all still pretty similar in our travel vibe then to now.
Did you prefer travelling back then or travelling now? What did you actually enjoy more?
I really like planning, so like I plan everything meticulously, which maybe takes the magic out of travel a little bit, but that's exciting for me, and I know it's not exciting for other people. It's not exciting for Craig. Craig's travel style is turn up, turn left. That's what he does. Back then you didn't plan as much. You were just on the go, really, weren't you? You were just using the Lonely Planet book to kind of guide you, to get you from one place to another, and then you were at.
Yeah. Did you get back from that trip and kind of sit down as a group and go, right, where are we off to next? Or how did it unfold after that?
Yeah, we all went back to uni. The summer was over and uni happened. But then I would say budget airlines kicked in, so it was more like trips to Barcelona. Just basically you'd go and you'd look at Ryanair and EasyJet and go, where is £20? And it was £20 back then. We went to Frankfurt once. My uncle was like, why are you going there? He's a businessman. And he's like, why are you going there? It's all business. We're like, oh, it was a city. We'll discover anywhere.
So how did the whole kind of travel life thing start to evolve from that? How did you get into what you're doing today? Why don't you tell my listeners what you are doing today so that we can start talking about that?
So now I run a travel website called Two Scots Abroad, and that started because Craig and I were taking an 18-month sabbatical. So high school teaching at the time. Craig was and still is a gas engineer. He runs a small business. And when we first met in 2012, I was like, look, I know after 3 years I can apply for a sabbatical, and I plan to do that. So if this is going anywhere, are you up for that? And he was like, yes, that sounds good to me. He lived in Vancouver for a year in his early 20s, and he always regretted not going back to Vancouver or not pursuing travel more. He kind of like got stuck in the ground back home type thing. So we tested the water with a 5-week trip to Southeast Asia, just to make sure that we could travel together as a couple. Passed that test, so we started saving, and then I started Two Scots Abroad just before we left, and kind of just started telling our story as we were travelling. That sort of evolved into more useful travel guides, and that's what I sort of create now. So travel guides and packing lists is my main themes of the website. I was travelling before then, so every summer of teaching, because we get 6 weeks off in Scotland, I was going to Australia, America for the first time. I had that big trip in the USA for the first time as well, where I did a group tour and then I did some solo travel. So yeah, I was really sort of like exercising that time, devoting it to travel. And I was sort of signed up to a community blogging website where I just wrote little stories for my family and friends. Announced that Craig and I were going away for 18 months. My friend Andy, who's a teacher, was like, you should start a bona fide travel blog. And I was like, I'm floppy disk girl. I don't know how to do that. So enter YouTube, the University of YouTube, and all the fabulous blogging Facebook groups where people are selfless and they're helpful sort of tips on how to be a blogger, etc. Yeah, so I just sort of scrambled about with that and documented our travels, and here I am today. I quit teaching August 2018, so I've been doing this for 1.5 years full time now.
Right, so let's go back because there's a lot of questions in that lot. First of all, you and Craig went to Asia to test the relationship under travel circumstances. So how long into that trip did you kind of sit down and say to yourself, yep, this is going to work okay?
So our only fights were alcohol related, and
oh, that's very un-Scottish.
Yeah. And we definitely don't drink as much now as we used to at that point either. So
when you say fights over alcohol, is that who was going to go to the bar and get the drinks or what?
Or more like the falling out of like me not wanting to go home or like the end of the night. That is usually the argument. But yeah, no, our only little tiffs were when we were blitzed, which a lot of couples I'm sure will sympathise with. So I thought, do you know what, we do that at home anyway, and they were tight, they weren't big in magnitude enough that would mean that we couldn't handle going away for 18 months together. So But I'm sure Craig would tell you that he's thankful that I found the blog, so I had something to do. I'm not very good at not doing anything. Just occupied my time for the 18 months.
Well, you're a Capricorn. You're an overachiever. You've got to be on the go all the time, achieving something.
I'll take that badge.
So you must have loved the fact that going over to Asia from Scotland with the pound in your pocket, you could buy an enormous amount of drinks, yeah?
Yeah, and also the foods. Oh my God, Thai food is my dream. I love Vietnamese food, but I don't like coriander. I have that gene. So there's some things I've got no coriander, please, or cilantro, no coriander, cilantro. Hence why we've not been to Mexico yet. It's problematic. There's the picky eater again. I'm not over it.
So when was this trip? What year was this?
Southeast Asia was 2013.
13. Okay, so this is way back then, and this is when you started kind of first doing your travel writing. It's really interesting because I have a lot of travel bloggers on the show, and you know, it's interesting to find out how they got into it. And I must say 95% of them got into it by actually just writing for family and friends about their trips, and then somebody within that group saying, hey, you should do this full time. So you're another one in that bucket, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And so what was the hardest thing about getting going when you said to yourself, right, I'm going to put it out to the wider world and all the rest of it? What were some of the most difficult things that you had to overcome for yourself?
Oh, the tech aspect of it. So some of my friends that ran businesses had websites, small businesses. So I asked them like about the website side of it and sort of like the host and the domain. It was all really alien to me. Yeah. So keeping up with that. Now I'm in a fortunate position that I can work out most things, and if I can't, I can just outsource it. But back then, you don't want to put any money into it, so you struggle along for days trying to work those things out. So I'd say that was a difficult thing. And then while I was traveling, I sort of hit a wall with traffic. And I was like, why? Things were progressing so well. Why is it not progressing anymore? And then another blogger, Bethany Davis from Flashback Her Family, was like, it's your SEO. And I was like, oh, I remember reading about that at the beginning, but that seemed very difficult. So I went away, read everything that I could on SEO, which there wasn't a lot back then in 2016. And then I just knuckled down and started optimizing some guides, and then traffic started improving massively, and I was reaching a wider audience through Google and not just social media. And then that's when the travel guide really flipped over for me, because I was wanting to be the answer and write useful guides as opposed to just tell stories.
So for the sake of my audience, why don't you explain this phenomenon that is SEO so they get a better understanding, because not everybody's up to speed on it.
So when you Google anything from like hairdressers for curly hair, or like how to make sticky mango rice, you're asking a question directly or indirectly to Google, and then Google is pulling up what it perceives to be the best results, and you can optimize your website, so that's search engine optimization, for that traffic, for that Google, Bing, etc. traffic.
You're currently listening to the Global Travel Channel podcast show. If you like our show and you'd like to hear more of our episodes, after this one you can head over to our website at www.globaltravelchannel.com. You can also download our episodes from places like iTunes under the podcast section, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and a host of other locations that are all listed on our website. If you enjoy our content, why not tell a family member, a friend, or even a work colleague about it? We'd like to tell as many people around the world about the Global Travel Channel podcast show as possible. Now, why don't we get back to listening to this episode? So when you talk about optimizing your website, you're talking about using keywords and hashtags and things like this that identify your particular, I guess, things that you're focusing on within that context of that blog post.
Yeah, keywords, definitely. Keywords that you can potentially rank for, being the answer. So my other company is teaching bloggers how to rank on Google. My other company is called Make Traffic Happen, that I co-own with another blogger, Laura Lynch, and we always say, like, you want to be the answer. But you need those keywords to ensure that you're hitting the nail on the head of what people are actually searching for, because you might be way off, or you might just be a little bit off.
Right.
And then you've got to be able to compete for it, which is a difficult aspect of it as well.
So tell me, when you started the travel blogging side of it, did you underestimate how much work is actually involved in putting this together?
I think I was so excited about it that was just doing it. It didn't matter. So all my free time was poured into it.
So what was Craig doing?
Gas engineering back then as well. So still the same. Things might change hopefully this year. Craig is training his brother Jordan. He's his apprentice just now. So we're hoping it flips round and Jordan takes over more of the work and Craig becomes freer so he can do creative stuff. But it's taken us this long to get there. So yeah, like people that are wanting to be bloggers, it's a lot of hard work and you've got to have realistic goals that last for years, like 5-year plans, like any business. It isn't a quick fix. And I absolutely hate those. Travel the world for free, buy this course on blogging, because it's never free, let's face it.
Yeah, exactly. So what are some of the, I've got a lot of people that listen to the show who are sitting on the abyss of jumping out of what they're currently doing and becoming a travel blogger. So what's a couple of, I guess, top tips of advice from you to say, hey, really consider this before you get started?
Yeah, so have a niche, like have a profitable niche. So all your people that have been on the podcast who initially started writing stories for family and then went into blogging were probably like me, where they went in very broad, and that's the hardest type of blogs to monetize. I would actually say anybody that goes in with a general travel blog just now, from 2020, will find it very difficult to succeed. You have to have some kind of niche going for you. Especially if you want to work with clients, you have to be able to have an elevator pitch where you're saying really sort of like succinctly what it is that you can offer their audience and why it is you're the best sort of blog person for that, or the brand.
Do you think it's important to have that up front, or is it something where you start off being general and let your niche kind of come to you? That happens quite a bit as well, right?
Yeah, I from a business perspective, I would say try and carve your niche as soon as possible.
As soon as possible, yeah. Okay.
Especially because one of the big things is going to be that you should learn search engine optimization from the start. And while it's going to be immensely difficult for you to rank in the beginning, if you're doing it from the start, you've got a really solid foundation to go for.
Yeah.
And when you do start ranking, you'll see that your traffic like doubles, triples pretty quickly.
Okay, so tip number 1, pick the niche. Make sure you start off with that. What's tip number 2?
Which is learn SEO from the beginning.
Right. It's that critical, yeah?
And then tip 3, I wouldn't say these are in any order. I would just say tip 3 would be think about communities and not followers. So everyone's obsessed with, like, I was getting my eyebrows done last week and my beautician was talking about all the lifestyle Instagrammers she follows, and everyone that she mentioned, the second sentence was, they've got this many followers, people are obsessed with it. People that don't understand the industry are obsessed with it. People that want to work with people in the industry are obsessed with it. But really, it's just as important, or far more important, as having a community on your channels than just having those followers on your channels.
So when you say a community, you're talking about a loyal group of people that stick to your blog.
Look to you for advice, that will call you out when they think that you're not quite right. You've sort of like not hit the nail on the head there. That you can have banter with, that you chat to. Like, I've got people that I chat to daily on Instagram stories that I might never meet. But it's nice that we can connect with each other each day with a love of travel or other things that are going on in the world today.
So let's talk about social media, as you just mentioned Instagram there, because social media is such an integral part of this as well, because it's not all about SEO, it's also about using these other tools. What's your relationship like today with social media? Is it a bit of a love-hate relationship?
Yeah, so I've not actually posted on the grid on Instagram in years.
In years?
Yeah, I think January there was a year.
Yeah.
I only use the stories aspect of it because it's easy and I know who I'm talking to. And that's another thing about being niche, because I'm broad. Sometimes I don't know who I'm targeting. So when I'm sending a newsletter out, I could be talking about Paris because I've just been to Paris. Whereas how many people in my newsletter are actually interested about Paris? They might be like, oh, that's inspirational, but they might not be going straight away. So when you want to monetize, that makes it quite difficult.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so Instagram stories, I feel like I've got a hold of who I'm actually talking to. I know who responds to me, who talks to me through the polls and the questions and the DMs. Facebook, I also know the sort of people that I talk to on sort of like when I post images and questions and things like that. I kind of understand my audience on Facebook, and I know what works.
Yeah.
Twitter is just the abyss for me. LinkedIn I find difficult as well.
Yeah.
So still challenges, always going to be still challenges in this industry.
So how long did it take you to kind of suss out those social media platforms like you've just explained to me, in terms of where you felt as though, okay, I've got the hang of this, I know which ones are going to perform for me and what I need to do? How long did that process take you?
Oh, ages. I was posting on Instagram all through that 18-month career break and then after it.
Yeah.
And I think, do you know how it was like that whole master of none thing?
Mm-hmm.
I think when I really had nailed SEO, I was like, right, I'm really comfortable and confident with my website content. Do you know what? I'm just not going to bother with Instagram now. Like, I think because I had strength somewhere, I was like, I'm going to give something up, maybe temporarily. I'm not saying I won't go back to it, but I don't do that many campaigns. But when I do campaigns, I feel in a confident sort of position that I can say to clients, it's just not something I offer, and here are the reasons for it. And they accept that or don't accept that.
Yeah, right. So let's talk about campaigns, because you do travel destination campaigns. How did you get into that sector, so to speak?
So a lot of it's just to do with networking. So being at home in Scotland has actually been really beneficial when you have a base. It's harder when you're travelling all the time because you've not got any roots, so it's difficult to network and meet people in the industry. But we've got a really strong team of Scotland travel bloggers that support each other. And so some of my campaigns have actually been found through other bloggers in Scotland doing that campaign first, engaging with their content, and then the PR have seen me doing that, and then they've come to me through that. Recommendations from other people, again, so that's networking. And attending events like Travel Massive. Do you have a chapter?
Yep.
Yeah. Or local conferences, or the Visit Scotland Expo, which takes place in April, so I'm going up to Aberdeen for that in the next month as well. So a lot of work that you don't see the return from up front.
I like what you're saying, though, because it gives us, and on the show so far I've had a lot of the travel bloggers that are traveling the world, the digital nomads that are out there, but you're sitting here now and sharing the story about being based in your base camp, which is hometown basically, and you're able to be more effective in a lot of ways because of those activities that you just mentioned. I think that's very interesting, because a lot of people that have been in contact with me, they sort of say, well, I don't want to be on the road all the time. I want to have a kind of a nest where I can do this from. Yeah. So you've obviously seen that's been very beneficial for all the reasons you've just stated.
Yeah, it's exhausting. I know everyone's like, whoa, what a life, traveling the world full time, but it's tiring. Plan a trip. You only go away for 3 days or 2 weeks.
Are we seeing the same levels of burnout in travel bloggers as we have done in YouTubers?
100%. I would say there's not a week going by that a blogger personally on Facebook or in a Facebook group is saying, I'm losing confidence, I'm burning out, I don't really know where to go from here, and looking for some encouragement.
Yeah. What drives that, do you think?
Having a small business, I think. Maybe if you're a team of one and you're trying to juggle everything, all the social media channels you've already spoke about, and then search engine optimization, your newsletter, turning up for events, going to campaigns, so you're only one person, and you want your business to succeed because it's your baby. And it's out there, isn't it? It's not like you're signing off at the end of the day. Your phone's in your hand, so it could constantly always be.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you were to start all over again, would you do anything differently?
I am. I'm working on a new site with a friend, which we will be launching in the next couple of months. And it's niche. It's niche enough that it takes in quite a few audiences, so hopefully it's recession proof, because you never know. And it's going to be fun again, hopefully, and it's just nice working with someone that's got the same work ethic as me to bounce off ideas and for input level as well. So yeah, definitely I can monetize. I know how to monetize it. It's the same skills that I'm taking forward, and it's just more, it's direct and it's more niche.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, well, let's get into some travel talk now and some actual places. You talk about, or you write about adventure travel, road trips, city breaks, and all those sorts of things. What about some of your most memorable adventure travel stories that you can share with us?
Have you heard of Death Road in Bolivia?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Have you cycled as a cyclist? Death Road in Bolivia?
Not yet. It's on the bucket list.
If you go to Bolivia, Bolivia's quite a small country as it comes to backpacking. The main stop's La Paz, incredible city. And then from La Paz you do the Death Road and then back to La Paz, and then you'll probably go down to the Salt Flats at uni.
Yes.
It was magical, like no horizon photos with dinosaurs and people coming out of boots and standing on each other and silly images like that. It's a brilliant day out. And then there's Sucre as well on the other side. So these are like the main spots that people travel to when they go to Bolivia on a But look, the Death Road in Bolivia is called the Death Road not because of the number of people that die cycling it. It's because when it was built, it was the number of people that died when it was actually getting built.
When it was built, yeah.
But you cycle from the top to the bottom, and the top begins very smooth because you're on a kind of like road that buses and trucks and cars use, and then you go into the Death Road proper, and it's very unsteady under the wheels. And yeah, it's so nerve-wracking. I felt...
We're talking about some serious altitude here too, aren't we?
Yes, I totally forget about that aspect of it as well. We'd been there for a while before we did it, so I was feeling quite acclimatised. We came from Peru as well. But yeah, altitude too, so you have to acclimatise before you go and do this challenge. And I honestly have never felt so sick for a whole day. Craig loved it. He was in his element. I was last at the pack. I felt like I was going like 60 miles per hour, and you look back at the video and I'm like crawling along. Stones, like, you know, Flintstones with the feet at the bottom of the car, that is how fast I was going. But you've got these huge drops to the sides. Actually, you can YouTube it when Top Gear, the UK driving TV show, they drove it, so you can YouTube it and have a look at what the drops are like as well. And they say that locals shouldn't use that road anymore, but there's definitely still people that are getting to and fro villages that are using it, and I'm just thinking, I wouldn't be doing that in a car.
Yeah, I was going to say it's still actively used because it's quite a commute for some people in those villages. I remember over in the Salt Flats. Bolivia's a fantastic country to go to, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic.
Yeah, underrated and probably unknown by a lot of tourists. Yeah.
No, definitely. We were feeling a bit of burnout by the time we got to La Paz, so we got an Airbnb in sort of like expat type area. So there's a lot of like Irish people that have started businesses and stuff like that. A lot of the hostels and the party scene is run by Irish backpackers that have settled there. So we went and stayed in this little expat area that had like a local market and some restaurants, and it was a little bit warmer than La Paz proper. It was in this sort of like weird, like, I don't know, cove bit that made it a little bit warmer. So really, really fond memories of the city. We did the whole staying in La Paz proper, doing the walking tour and things like that, and then we had a few days just chilling out, catching up on some work in the Airbnb. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the Death Road is definitely one to put on the bucket list for people listening. What about a couple of road trips? You got a couple of road trips you can share with us? Yeah, so in Scotland we've got our Route 66, the North Coast 500.
Oh yes.
Now, have you been? Have you heard?
Do it on a motorbike. That's the
way.
That's the only way to do a road trip in Scotland is on a motorbike. How many people haven't done that?
That's funny because Ewan McGregor, the Scot, left Scotland and did a motorbike ride elsewhere around the world. Amazing. I absolutely love the States.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? Yeah.
We actually got married in Austin, Texas.
Oh, did you really?
March 2016.
Why did you choose Austin, Texas?
South by Southwest. The festival.
Okay.
We went 2015 and then we went back 2016 and then we got married straight after it. We eloped. We didn't invite anybody.
Great strategy.
Craig went back to South by 2018 and I went back with him in 2019. But we're not going this year. We're taking a break.
Okay. Yeah, but okay, back to the road trip in Scotland because everybody wants to hear about that.
It starts in Inverness and then you can go round the east and then over to the west, or you can go the west-east. It doesn't matter what way you go.
Yep.
And you're taking in tiny villages, huge like cliff landscape, beaches, and I mean turquoise blue sea, white sand, beaches, with the Scottish temperatures, obviously.
But people, yeah, that's a really good point, because people don't have that vision of Scotland, right? And when I remember when I went there for the first time, which was, you know, too many decades ago to be honest about it, but I was like, wow, hang on a minute, this can't be Scotland. This is not what it's all about in Scotland. I wanted to see dark black water but you see turquoise water with white sandy beaches.
And there's no trolleys in those waters either, like you get in.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so from one coast to the other, and plenty of B&Bs to stay in along the way.
And B&Bs in Scotland are just the nicest thing ever. Like,
they're divine, aren't they? It's like
the food, the breakfast is so good, the chat is so good, and it's not weird. Tiny.
What do you mean by that? It's not weird.
Well, do you know, like for some cultures coming over here, like in the Facebook groups, we have to explain, like the Scotland Facebook groups, like B&Bs are a real attraction in Scotland. Actually, like you'll get to hear the life story of these locals that have lived in these tiny villages forever, and generally as well.
Yeah.
But their houses are sometimes small, so it is quite close knit. I suppose it's cozy, Curian. But they're the best. Those experiences are the best in Scotland, I think. So I always, I am a fan of Airbnb, but I try and tell our readers to choose carefully when you use it. If you know that a city struggles with the housing market, people are just buying up properties to use on Airbnb, just be cautious so you're not using Airbnb mafia Airbnbs. But a lot of the B&Bs in Scotland do advertise on Airbnb as well. So if you're getting a breakfast thrown in and you're renting a room in someone's house, you know that that's a traditional Scottish B&B.
Yeah. I used to live in Europe for a while, for quite a while, and I used to go over to Scotland and have that B&B experience. And everywhere else I went in the world after that and went to a B&B, I was just so disappointed. It just didn't live up to that. And I'm not just saying that because you're on the show today. That's a fair dinkum comment there. That's something that it's the cozy whole, it's the whole package, isn't it?
That's lovely. I will pass that message on into the Facebook group.
Tea and scones in a Scottish B&B on a wet winter's afternoon. You can't beat it. It's the best way to go.
Afternoons, so.
Yeah, there are many wet afternoons. There are. Okay, what about city breaks? Give us a couple of great city breaks.
Oh, so many, too many. Europe's city breaks are just the best. They really are.
Give us an offbeat one though. Give us one where people maybe not have been frequenting so much.
Kiev in Ukraine.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Very romantic. I didn't go with Craig. I went with Laura that I went interrailing with when I was 19.
Oh, okay.
We went last year. Yeah, loads of young couples walking about with flowers. Lots of bouquets of flowers, actually. Family members obviously taking them home to their mums or their wives. And young couples on first dates with flowers in their hand as well. It's a really young city. Young musicians out playing instruments.
Nice people too. Nice, friendly people.
Cool.
And obviously super interesting fact that you can do the day trip to Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Which one of the strangest experiences marketing wise.
Mm-hmm.
Quite understand who they're marketing to. So anyone that's been to Chernobyl will know that you go through a lot of points. So there's army, there's soldiers with guns, etc. You can't walk up to Chernobyl. You have to go with a fully authorised tour. But when you're waiting to get your papers signed, there's the official booth outside, and it has the weirdest souvenirs, such as the Coca-Cola logo, and it's what does it say? Try Chernobyl, die later.
Oh no.
Gas masks. And I was just thinking, you don't understand your marketing. If you think that's the majority of people that are coming to Chernobyl. In our group, we had people that work in nuclear, so they were interested in that. Laura's a reader first, so there was that interest for Laura. Photographer. there was nobody. Like, we did see a group of boys. One of them put the checker, the radiographer checker, is it Guggen counter?
Yeah.
Counter? I can't remember.
Are you saying that it was being marketed like a theme park type of thing?
I think it's marketed for like the bro tourism. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
realistically, in our group,
yeah.
nobody was like that. And like our tour guide even said at one point, like, this sign isn't this isn't radioactive. The sign wasn't here. But we just, like, it's just been put there. But if you want to take selfies, go ahead and take selfies. So it was actively encouraged there. Whereas I was just thinking, death toll, like the illness, and obviously everybody's watched the HBO show.
Yeah.
So they have a real sort of like interest in the human side of it, I suppose. That's one place that I was like, wow, the marketing hasn't matched the customer. But hopefully it'll sort of organically change if they maybe speak to the customers and see or read blogs online, etc., and see what people are saying about it.
Well, it will do. It will do after they've listened to you on this podcast.
Positively.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what about one more city break? Have you got another city break for us?
Oh, I love Vienna.
Yes. Yeah. What do you love about Vienna?
Actually, when you were asking me about expectations when I was younger, my expectation of Vienna was it's going to be quite vanilla, like, and it just totally exceeded any expectations that I had.
Yep.
It's just clean and nice. The food is great. I love the whole stereotypical grumpy waiter.
Yeah.
I went with Craig, and then the next year I went with my mum. At Christmas time, I went with my mum, and the highlight for my mum was when the waiter did put on his wee show for her.
Right.
For the menu, and he went, "I am the menu," and raised his eyebrow. And my mum just thought this was the best. And I love a fairground. There's a vintage theme park with a big Ferris wheel.
Yeah.
There's lovely rooftop sundown drink sort of bars. And it's just aesthetically so beautiful. If you're a photographer, Vienna should be on your bucket list.
And it's get on the train and go to Bratislava as well, and visit Tesco. Because it's only an hour away.
That's it. And the Spar in Vienna. Spar and get your pastries.
Could do a supermarket tour of Europe. Write a blog about it.
I'd like to do a karaoke tour, so maybe I could double niche up karaoke and supermarket.
So we've got the Death Road, we've got the great road trip around the top of Scotland, we've got Kiev, and we've got Vienna. Fantastic. There's some good tips for people to go and try out. So before I let you go today, because we've already rushed through our time, that's incredible, Gemma, that we've rushed through our time talking all things Scotland and everything else. Where are you going to be with all this travel work and everything that you're doing in 5 years from now, do you reckon?
That's a very good question. So Craig is actually flipping a camper van just now. So he's using his engineering skills to create something that's either we're going to create a business out of, or we're just going to use ourselves. So we'll see how that goes. So I think we're going to have a lot more camper van activity in Europe. A lot of the countries. So I am an affordable traveler and travel blogger. So places that I would really like to go to, such as Norway, that feel expensive and quite scary. That's the kind of I would like to take our camper van over to. I've been to Iceland though, and I would say in Iceland's defence, yes, it's expensive for accommodation, but everything you can do there's free.
Yeah.
So although in some countries seem very expensive, you weigh out actually there's something that might balance out, etc. And very outdoorsy. Hopefully big Europe camper van trip. Next year we're hoping to go to the USA for longer, so depends if we can get a visa or not. So either the 90 days that we can get with the visa waiver or longer, and visit our friends Megan and Scott from the travel blog Bobo and Chi Chi. They live in New York. We want to go and visit them. And we've just got loads of friends in America now. We've been over so many times that we could sort of like jump about, and I've kind of got my eyes set on Colorado.
Oh yes, definitely. Actually, I just did a show this week with an American. We talked about all the must-go places in America, and Colorado came up as one of the must-go places.
I feel like it's my spirit state that I've never been to.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, maybe I'm putting in too much of a high expectation after me saying I never have expectations. No, I love that vibe, outdoor vibe. It looks very cool. So yeah, that's kind of what we're hoping for. And next year I'm going to Ibiza for the first time.
Oh, you haven't been?
No, it's my friend's 40th birthday, so all the husbands and wives and all my friends that have kids are leaving the kids at home and we're getting a big villa.
So it's not true, because I heard a story once, and it probably came from an Irishman rather than a Scotsman, that every Scotsman by the age of 21 goes to Ibiza for a holiday at some stage.
Yeah, I don't know how I missed that boat, to be honest with you. You know what? They go back year after year after year until they burn out as well. My brother's big Ibiza goer, Craig was in the past as well. So this is kind of like our pals turning 40, so it's like the big reunion, I suppose. So
yeah.
I'm thinking about that trip.
What about North Korea? Have you been there?
No, have you?
No, not yet. But I want to go to North Korea. It's one of my must-dos because it hasn't been ticked off yet on my list.
Interesting. No, it's not somewhere that's on my radar. There's just so many places in the world, and the more you travel, the more people you meet, and you're like, wow.
From different places, yeah. Is Craig doing a video on the van refurb? Okay, so that's going to be on your site at some stage?
Sharing, I'll share links onto Scots Abroad if we decide to connect it to the business. And he's going to have a whole hyperlapse type thing, so you can see it going from a work van to a boutique camper van. Yeah,
oh,
it's
beautiful.
Exciting.
Beautiful.
We also have a dog, so this is another thing. It's about incorporating our dog Bowie, Husky German Shepherd, into our travels as well.
Husky German Shepherd's going to be awesome in a van.
Yeah. Well, she's so annoying. She's so beautiful, but she does not like getting her photo taken, so she is not an Instagram dog.
Oh, that's a shame.
No.
But you'll be able to work around that. I'm sure you'll be able to get some sneaky photos there.
I will try.
Gemma, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you for giving me your time and for my audience's wonderful information that you've shared with us about all those different aspects. I'm going to put all the links to your sites in the show notes today of the podcast so people can connect with you if they want to, and hopefully get more messages out there about Two Scots Abroad.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for inviting me and giving me the chance to speak to your audience.
You're welcome, and I'm sure we'll catch up again because might have you back on the show when you've been to Ibiza. Yeah?
Yes, or survive.
Okay, Gemma, thanks again, and good luck today in Scotland.
Thank you.
My delightful guest today has been Gemma Armit from Scotland, and that was a fantastic tour of the world, actually. We went from Kiev to Vienna to Bratislava and over to Austin in Texas even, where she got married with her man. So, yeah, fantastic episode. Gemma, thank you very much for joining me on the Global Travel Channel podcast show. If you're listening today and you want to find more of our episodes, all you have to do is go to our website at www.globaltravelchannel.com. It's easy to remember. And while you're there, you can find all the usual places where you can download the episodes and listen to them whenever you want to. You can get them from places like Apple iTunes under the podcast section, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and a host of other locations. Don't forget, we also have a Patreon page, so you can check that out and see the bonus information that is on there as well. Okay, well, that's it for this particular episode. My name is Mark Philpott, and until we meet again next time, I wish you all a very happy and safe bon voyage.